Did I tell you the story about
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I hope we didn't blow anybody's amplifier in the house with that volume on the introduction. I'm Chip.
Hey,
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos Cesar.
And there we are. Now we're all lined up. So it's going to be an interesting day. First off, this is the holiday weekend, so we know a lot of people are out there and
out and about.
And hopefully everyone has a good, safe holiday weekend. We left off on Wednesday with some of the lovely issues known as the lies, more lies, and who can end with the lies. But it's been an interesting week for candidates. Oh my God. They're all being vilified and assassinated verbally in that lovely place called Facebook land, where the Facebook warriors take control and make living hell out of everything. It's always so much fun. But hey, when you put your name in the public limelight, you become a organization that in and of itself for attacks. But that's the way it is. But Carlos.
Either that or you have to be called CJ.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I got into an extended discussion, very heated. I won't call it an argument, with one of our co-hosts on a different show. In regards to some handicap issues and wheelchair accessibility issues on local cabs. And we basically came to a point where we have in the past that we've agreed to disagree. And our conversations can get very heated. But we don't take it personal. We both look at it the same way. Business is business, personal is personal. Mm-hmm. But I had conversations with I think just about every city council candidate possible, because they're all
32 of them.
Yeah, it looks that way, huh? They all, they're all calling this week and they're saying, you're filing complaints with OCPF against me and da 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 da. I'm going to say now and for the record, all right? Do I file complaints with OCPF on candidates? Yes. Do I file them without telling you? No. I don't blindside anyone. I will meet with any candidate I'm having a problem with on their finances or how they're running their campaign finances, and I will let them know that, hey, that's wrong. This is what Mass General Law 55 says. This is what the regulations are. You need to do it this way. Correct it. And some of them have turned around and says, hey, go mind your own business. What do you care? You're not the watchdog. And I say, okay, fine. I will file the complaint then. And I file the complaint, and then they get slapped on the wrist. But that's the way it is. Now, I believe it's the 13th of July, OCPF will be down at Fall River, and they come every year and they have a campaign finance meeting and they discuss what people can and cannot do. So you have to, as a candidate, whether you're for mayor, city council, school committee, or even charter commissioner, you need to make sure you send your treasurer or designated representative who handles your finances, or more importantly, yourself, so you know what the regulations are. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. And we have enough of the ignorance of the law in Fall River. We don't need any more. Chip, you seem to be occupied with something.
Well, I mean, obviously we're dealing with the OCPF and campaign finance. So now that we're done with that, let's get to the real reason for this show, politics. Okay? And what goes on in Fall River. Let's get some straight talk. Because personally, they want to violate campaign finance law. They're going to get a slap on the wrist, and it's indicative of government. I like to put everything in context of how it affects the everyday life of the people in Fall River and in this nation. And that means that politics as usual. The politically connected and the rich never get held accountable. If you're a politician, well, You violate the campaign law, you go by, oh, bad, very bad, and you go about your business. It's kind of like, let's get back to that little $21,278,500 that our city administrator said she saved in what I believe is, she said, the last 17 months, which is absurd because if we save $21,278,500, which is a very finite figure, where the hell is it? Why are we broke? Is this document telling me that after she saved over $21 million, we were still $6.5 million in the hole facing this budget? Does that mean we were $27 million in the hole with our budget? Where did this money go? This magic money, all these savings, which are really not savings, as we went over the last show. Most of the jobs here have been gone and have been gone for a while. That's why she said 17 months, because they were unfilled before this budget. And which again goes to show that the threats of all these layoffs were fabrications again to threaten the public, scare the public, and to give the Sam sellouts a reason to vote for the budget. Oh, we can't have this. We're going to have layoffs. And with that, I'm going to go back to something because CJ said he got a little heat. I talked about the $250,000 price tag she said on about putting the 8 district chiefs' aides back into the company. Well, first of all, let's do some simple math. They had $1 million budget that they blew through in less than 3 or 4 months. But let's say that they spent $1 million. So you're saying that the reassignment of 8 people is going to save you $250,000. So if you follow that and extrapolate it a little bit, if we had 24 more people, we wouldn't need overtime because that's $1 million. And that was their overtime budget. So, I mean, number one, that's absurd because when they had 225 people, they had an overtime budget that they used basically all of. But let me get down to the reality of this thing before everybody starts trying to justify figures, because we all know that figures don't lie, but liars can figure. This is not an overtime issue. This is a staffing issue. This has been created solely by lack of manpower. At a time in a galaxy far, far away, long, long ago, we had a 300-man fire department, 290 to 300 men. Overtime was virtually unheard of in the Fall River Fire Department. When I got on the job, if you got one overtime a year, that was normally on 4th of July, where we had 5,000 or 6,000 fires over a 4th of July weekend. It was a miracle if you had 2. I mean, you threw a party if you got a second overtime. So the overtime budget was minuscule. Then the city made again, a great decision, financial decision, which had, again, as we always do to this day, and this happened many, many years ago, had absolutely no presence of forethought. They didn't think about the future. They didn't think about the forest. They looked at the tree. The geniuses said, well, you know something? Instead of hiring and keeping this manpower complement up, we're going to cut the manpower down to 250, 255. We're going to lose 45 or 50 firefighters. And what we're going to do is we're going to maintain a manning level by paying them overtime, because it's cheaper than paying salaries and Blue Cross and benefits. Well, short-term thinking again, which is pervasive in Fall River. Of course, that's going to work on a short term, but what happened? Over the next 10 or 15 years, they kept, we negotiated pay raises, and I negotiated most of them. But what happens is, as the city always does, they begin to run out of money, and what do? They give you a pay raise, but then they level fund the overtime budget. So guess what? When you have firefighters making 20% more than they made 10 years ago, and the overtime budget's 2% bigger than it was 20 years ago, you're gonna run out of overtime money. And then the problem over the years became even worse, because we went down from 255 to, and down to 153 during a career administration, and now we're at 175. And of course you're gonna run out of overtime money. Yet the apparatus is naked. I mean, you generate overtime even if nobody calls in sick, because there's just no bodies. Just standard vacations generate overtimes. And that's the problem. The problem is manning. And it's the city's fault. They made these choices. And as usual, when it gets down to the end, they blame the people, like they blame the taxpayers. We're not paying our taxes. That's the whole problem in this city. And it's the same thing. It's like, okay, it's the firefighters' fault. Well, no, it's the city's fault. They're the ones that said, let's reduce the complement of men. And the union should be out there complaining about that. So that's my clarification on that issue. Overtime is directly related to how the deployment of your men is, and staffing levels, and manpower levels overall in the department. And this is the reason we have a problem with overtime. And that, number one, is a false figure, as most of these figures are. And this document stands as proof that virtually every number we ever get is absolute equine excrement.
And the question is, where's the money?
Yeah.
The money is still there. Yeah, I can see. I pulled my glasses so I could see
21
closer.
million, where is it?
And here, the money is there. And what happened was, to me, I put it this way: I cut the paper bags on the trash. So this is a saving. But guess what? We still need bags, so I'm going to move to plastic bags. So I saved it because I carted the paper bags, but I'm not showing that the money still be using on the same department, because now I changed to plastic bags. So paper bags are gone. We're saving that money.
Yeah, no, you're right, Carlos. The thing is that she's saying we saved $21 million, but we didn't because we spent it. If we saved $21 million, we'd have $21 million in a reserve fund. Where the hell's the money? I mean, it's not that difficult to figure out. If I say that, look, I'm going to cut out something in my budget, and I'm going to save money on that, but then I spend more money in another area, I technically haven't saved anything. All I've done is shifted money. Mm-hmm. What they're saying is, and what's really important is, that this city spends money like a drunken sailor. Because no matter how much money they free up, and how much tax money we give them, and how much fee money we give them, they'll figure out a way to spend it. Mm-hmm. And they're not spending it where we want.
And we saved $30,000 closing a senior center, and with that money, $30,000, according to the mayor, we hired 2 more police officers.
For $30,000, really? When it's $100,000 per fire or police officer, that's the figure they gave. So we hired 2 for 30. Well, that's good. But the other thing I got about this is, now I guess the mayor has come out, and CJ, you can. Now he's come out and said he's got some genius plan of the senior center downtown. He's going to begin to provide trolley service for these people to other senior centers, right? So we saved, let's see, we closed the senior center, and that saved us $50,000. So let's figure out how much we're going to pay the trolley driver, the gasoline, the trolley, and figure out how much we lost on this deal.
And the trolleys need a lot of work. I mean, I use the trolleys to go around with kids, and believe me, those trolleys are falling apart.
Well, this is typical Fall River. We saved $50,000 by closing the center, and we're going to pay $75,000 to run the trolleys. So, that's Fall River math. That's why we always run out of money. Right, CJ, you're awful quiet in here.
Well, because I'm sitting here trying to decide whether to laugh or cry. I mean, and the smell is getting really bad because the bull is flying from that paper.
Because you gotta laugh to keep from crying. That's the problem.
That is the
Reading
problem.
it.
But you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, I actually started, and Carlos and I spoke about this earlier this week. They closed the library in the Flint, okay? And as you remember, Chip, they based it on 3,900 books were taken out in the last fiscal year. The problem that they never took into consideration is the people factor. They didn't take into consideration that people actually use that facility. According to independent reports, and I actually went to people who used that facility, because guess what? After our last show, they called to talk about it. And I spoke with them. And they said, no, I never took a book out. I would go there, I would read the newspaper, I would use the computer, I would look up information, because I don't have a computer at home, I don't have internet access, and that type of stuff. So all of that counts for something. But, you know, that's the people factor. So let's keep moving on. And people don't matter. We know this already.
Especially poor people.
Especially poor people.
Especially poor people. They definitely don't matter. They definitely don't matter.
And you know, this is the problem. Now, they closed that library, and people actually took pictures of children picking books up off the sidewalk from in front of the library, and they were reading those books. Gratefully, those books are being put to use. But how can they say that there was no use of that building? Why? Just because the books didn't leave the building? And furthermore, anyone who went there, and I actually confirmed this, when they would want a book, they would actually have to get the book through what's called the sales system. It's an interlibrary loan program. So a lot of the books from one particular individual who used to go there regularly to get books to read, not only for her, but for her husband, would never get the books from Fall River. They would come from Middleborough and Lakeville and Boston and Cambridge and here, there, and everywhere. And they come from all over the world, it seemed, all over Massachusetts. And they didn't come from Fall River. So what type of library do we have that we don't even have our own books? But that's all it was used for. So I recommended to that person that they go to the BCC library, because it's just as close to go to the BCC library as it is to go to what was then the Flint branch of the library. Excuse me. And they said, oh, but you know, I used to like going there. They said, you know, it wasn't the best library in the world. It kind of had a moldy smell to it, and it wasn't the most modern and the most clean. And I'm like, where did the $100,000 go then if the rugs were dirty and the place wasn't the cleanest place in the world? But she says, it was nice because everybody knew everybody. So it also became, you know, the People's University as is on the building downtown. That people actually met there. It became a small community center.
And the question now on the air is, because of that library was to move to the community center, right, the next block. The question is still up on the air if we still can do it. And I will do anything that I can to put a library there on that building. How gonna work, if we can work on grants? I mean, it's up on the air, but definitely it's a need of a library around that area.
Well, you know, and the thing is, Carlos, that we already know how the city feels about poor people. I mean, look at what they did to your project, okay? They gave CPA money for $192,000 for an air conditioner. And I actually ran the numbers through, because that's a matching grant, which means it's actually $384,000. And I ran it through a couple of air conditioning contractors from around the state. And they said, you know, what are they doing, building an icebox? The number is extremely inflated. So which political hack, which political scrotum licker is getting this $400,000 contract, but the Flint Neighborhood Community Center gets bupkis?
While we're on political hacks and politics, it may not be coincidental that the South Main Street Senior Center did not close, even though they were talking about low utilization, even though I don't think that's a factor, until a until the spouse of a school committeeman retired.
Correct.
I wonder if that was purely coincidental. They waited until she retired to close it. Now it's like, okay, we got nobody collecting something off the public dole that's connected. So now we can kick it to the curb. And that's the problem. The problem is, look, the East End Library, we always say, not only do figures don't lie, but liars can figure, but data can be manipulated. And this is data. How many books are checked out versus utilization. As you said, there are a lot of elderly people or people who can't, they're not going to go out and spend, as I said, there seems to be they're totally oblivious to the city they live in, the people who run it. They don't know about poor people. As I said, they don't realize that 22% of the people are living on less than $15,000 per household. And it's like, people can't go out and spend $20 on newspapers. There are people that go to the library and read the Wall Street Journal. And, contrary to popular belief, we do have a segment of the population in this community that actually can read. And they go to the libraries and they use computers because they can't afford computers, and they read newspapers and they read books without taking them out. And it's, as you said, it's a neighborhood. Yep. They know each other. It's actually a place to come together, and it's a socialization. It's kind of like in Europe when they go to the pubs, and it's
Right.
not just to get drunk, and so it's there. It's part of the community. And this is what really irritates me when I see cuts always at the bottom, always at the lowest, and then we look at these numbers as we went over again. They're all fabrications. I mean, item 21 and 22, the electric aggregation is a resident savings. That's $4 million. So how do you that's like me saying in my budget, I saved $10,000 last year because my neighbor put in solar panels on his house. Really? Come on. I mean, let's face this. And then the next one, the average annual grants. Average. That doesn't mean it's an accurate. Right off the bat, it's not even an accurate number. It's an average. So it's an average annual grant. That again, you're going to credit yourself for saving money because it's like me crediting myself. Hey, I just hit a scratch ticket for $50. I just saved $50. No, I didn't. I got lucky once.
Right.
These grants are not forever. And I mean, right there is $11.6 million out of the 21. So we're already under 10 million. We're already under 10 million in his BS savings.
And remember, Chip, that's true BS because the $4 million savings to the residents hasn't even approved by the state regulatory authority.
Yeah, but who cares about that? We don't care. We just, look, if we put it down,
it's law. That's it.
That's it. That's it. And it's just like laws. Laws, as our mayor said. Oh, don't worry about that. We'll get around it. So I guess we're the only people that have to live by the law, and we're the only people who have. And when I look at this, it's like I said, it's appalling. I look at the salaries. I look at the things that are being eliminated, watchmen, and the lowest end of the jobs, and yet I vividly remember the last council meeting when the hubris of our officials, they actually had the hubris to go in and tell us how they all deserved more money. And, they deserve more money, and the people who provide us services are the first people they kick to the curb. And it's like, wow, are we getting a deal, huh? We get to pay more and more every year. They get to get paid more, and we get to get less and less services. I went in to pay my water bill on the last day, which I always do, and I wait till City Hall's almost closed, so they get my money at the 11th hour, because this city just has not proven to me they can use my money. There was one clerk working. I guess the other one came back from break just as I was getting ready. But there was one person in front of me, and they had an issue, I guess, with excise taxes, and they had to look in the records, and it's not the clerk's fault, but I ended up standing there for 15 or 20 minutes with only one other person in there. And then as I was leaving, somebody else came in. Heaven forbid we had a long line. I mean, half of the people would have got thrown out of City Hall without getting their bills paid. So again, it's like services. More and more of the people who deliver what we pay our taxes for are going. This document, you know, is an edifice to their incompetency. I mean, this is a monument. We should bronze this thing and put it in front of Government Center as a monument, because this proves how full of you-know-what they are.
We should challenge other cities if they can come up with a list like that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, if he can use everybody else's savings, they can save billions.
Exactly. But you know, this is the problem we have, and you know, yesterday I was told in one of my heated discussions that, you know, all I do is file complaints and look what happens. Nothing happens. They don't do anything about them, and I have to disagree with that, because I always approach people first and I say, look, this is how it should be done, and you really need to look at it. I am not the best on presenting information. Sometimes I'm like a bull in a china shop. Okay, mostly I'm like a bull in a china shop. But I give you the opportunity to look at it and review it, and I give you the facts. It's they who turn around and say, you know what, file a complaint and then we'll see what happens. Because they think that maybe they won't do it. Well, I filed the complaint. Then we meet and we come to an agreement and I withdraw the complaint. We meet a mutually beneficial solution. Where we don't have to keep running through this system. But in Fall River, as opposed to doing negotiation, which, Chip, you're very familiar with Fall River negotiations, they would rather say, file the complaint and then we'll negotiate. So why? Well, it's putting our lawyers to work. We're spending more of your money. And that's you know, that's where I am guilty, because I do file the complaints and they are spending more of my money. I mean, I got my preliminary tax bill, and they say preliminary right on the bill. It seems to me that there's like a $300 increase per quarter. I want to know where that money's going. I really do. And why is it preliminary? Why isn't it the final tax bill? You know, these are questions I have. But guess what? Nobody can answer it. Okay? As a matter of fact, the answer was, I'll have to look that up and I'll get back to you.
Well, we know that only the shadow knows for sure.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous.
And you know, we get back to the, another issue here, the $11,000 per 2 department head salaries that were reduced. You know, they're going to, New Bedford might get a casino, but they won't get a sports book. It's too bad, because I'd like to bet that they both get a pay raise in next year's budget if Sam gets reelected.
How many stipends do they get right now, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, obviously absent of the stipends that we know are buried all over the place.
Right.
But I guarantee you that if this mayor gets reelected, they're both his appointments. And he's saying that he reduced their salaries $11,000 per department head, which their salaries are still way up over $100,000, which, just in case the people of Fall River can't do the math, the people who live on less than $34,000 a year per household, that's it averages about $10,000 a month, which is $2,500 a week gross. So, $2,500 a week is a lot of money.
Hey, Carlos, I found financing for your asbestos removal. Go talk to the assessor. He gets $2,500 a week. He can afford to give you a little bit.
I know.
This is sad.
But and this is the thing that I guess you had a conversation with the governor this week, and they're upset because we're complaining about that ridiculous document, the Constitution. Because the Constitution clearly states that they are answerable to us and at all times our agents. They are our agents. But they've forgotten that on the federal level, on the state level, and this has to change. And when I walked my dog this morning, somebody walked up to me and said, you guys are right. He said, and it's not only the mayor, the council. He said, they're just as culpable for this. I'm not sure if he used the word culpable, but okay. But they're responsible for it. But the thing is that people know, let's get involved, let's not forget, and we'll see you all at the polls in September.
That's for sure. Have a great weekend.
Sure.
Be safe.
Have a good weekend.
Don't eat too many hot dogs.